Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris, and with me as always is Mike. He's wandering around in the Valley of the Dolls. How are you doing today?
The wonderful opening, Chris. I'm doing great, thank you.
Yes, and looking on to Mike from Mount Everest is Justin. How are you doing?
I'm good. Confused, but good.
Yeah, I'm
also
confused too. But it'll all become clear.
This is going well.
Valley of the Dolls. Yeah.
If this is your first time listening to us, this is a Casually Criterion episode, which is where we review a film from the Criterion Collection. We used to do these once a month, but actually starting with this very episode, we are going to start producing more Casually Criterion episodes, at least 2 times a month. Justin, why don't you explain a little bit more about what I'm talking about?
Sure. So we're going back to a format we used to have briefly for a long time ago, and that is basically alternating weeks between a new film that's in theaters or that's on VOD and the Criterion film. So, for example, this week, you're hearing our Valley of the Dolls Casually Criterion episode. Next week, we'll be doing It Chapter 2 in theaters. The following week will be Criterion, and the week after that will be another new current theatrical film, and so on into eternity.
Yeah, but don't worry. If you haven't seen the Criterion films, or you haven't seen the current films, or whatever, you just want to hang out with us, every episode will start out with a News on the March section where we talk about current news and everything we've been watching since the last episode.
That's right. And also important, we'll be doing polls just like we've been doing for our Casually Criterion episodes, but we'll be doing a new poll every other week. So you'll still get to choose every Criterion film we do every other week.
Yeah, you get twice the opportunity to choose our films.
Yeah, absolutely. Woo. So before getting into our Casually Criterion review, we're going to be talking about news on the march, whatever's going on this week, everything we've been watching, and then we'll be moving into the Criterion announcements for November of 2019, and then our Casually Criterion review for Valley of the Dolls, directed by Mark Robson, spine number 835.
That's right. And if you want to vote in those polls, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. You can also send us questions or topics to discuss about the movies we're watching each week to those social media accounts. You can also email your questions to casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then, of course, if you like the show, go onto iTunes, give us a 5-star review, help other people find the show so that they can like it too.
Please and thank you. Also, send us some constructive criticism. We appreciate it.
Yeah, if you don't like the show, let us know constructively.
Yeah.
And subscribe. Even if you don't like the show, just subscribe, let it download.
So with that, gentlemen, are we ready to go ahead and move into News on the March?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
News on the March!
All right. So, Mike, what is your news that is on the march this week?
My news on the march this week, I guess, is something that broke in the middle of D23 last week. So we actually should have reported on it like in last week's episode, but it got completely overshadowed by all of the Star Wars content and all that stuff that Disney put out. But this is an update on the Breaking Bad movie about Jesse Pinkman that has been rumored to be in development for the past year or so. And that is, now we have a release date and a title and a trailer. So everything...
Surprise, it's already been filmed.
Yeah. So the movie's called El Camino, and spoilers for Breaking Bad. Hang on. Spoilers for Breaking Bad. This takes place after Breaking Bad ends and Jesse Pinkman goes on the run in an El Camino.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also think they owe a debt to Justin here, since his movie was also called, or is just called Camino, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin's going to get some of that sweet Breaking Bad traffic.
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. I've rejoiced at this news. And granted, I'm not the first person to come up with the name El Camino. It existed before my film. I'm also not the first film to be called Camino. And this isn't the first film to be called El Camino.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take full-on credit or anything, but like you said, hopefully it drives people to my film, which, if you're listening and you haven't heard us promote it on the show before, I do have a film that I directed. It was my graduate thesis project. It's called Camino, just Camino. It's on Amazon Prime, so go watch it and help support me, please.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this movie, on the other hand, is not called Camino. This is called El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Are you guys excited or not excited? Why don't I throw it to Chris first and hear your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, we've talked about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and the movie before. We hadn't seen a trailer for it. I don't know that my enthusiasm for it has changed much. I will say I was not... The trailer did not make me more excited for it. In fact, I think I'm probably a little bit more worried about the movie after having watched the trailer. I know it just doesn't... It felt a little weird, and it wasn't much of a trailer, and we'll get to watch it. I think it comes out like in 4 weeks. It's very soon.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see it. What I will say is when they announced Better Call Saul, I was like, well, that's silly.
Yeah.
And so it's Vince Gilligan's opportunity to lose me. But until he loses me, I'm on board and I'll watch it because I think, everything I've seen from him has been really great. So, at least in the Better Call or the Breaking Bad universe. So, I'm on board. The trailer didn't get me super excited about it. But yeah, I'm still excited to watch it. So, what did you guys think of the trailer?
Justin?
I didn't watch the trailer, to be honest. I didn't know that there was a trailer until you guys talk about it right now. I knew that the name was announced and that the date was announced, but I haven't watched the trailer. But I will watch the movie because I watched all of Breaking Bad, and if I've watched that much, I'll watch a movie. You
right?
know?
Yeah,
that's fine. Is the title a Breaking Bad movie or the Breaking Bad movie?
I believe it's a Breaking Bad movie.
Breaking Bad movie. Yeah,
kind of leaving opportunity for more movies. If they called it the Breaking Bad movie, it would be.
Well, before Better Call Saul, I would have been more against that kind of thing, I think. But because Better Call Saul is so good and he is building out this Albuquerque, New Mexico crime saga out so much, right? I don't know. I kind of am of the opinion that, he can keep building on it tangentially as long as the crossovers don't get too painful and contrived. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everything has been of such a high caliber in the crime saga so far.
Right. Well, it's like we were worried about Better Call Saul when it first started coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But then it ended up, in my opinion, being better than Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the best things on TV right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm there for it, I guess. My girlfriend and I actually, as soon as this trailer dropped, we pretty much just started rewatching Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So I'm actually just got into the very first part of season 2. So
nice.
I have about a month or so. Yeah, a little over a month to go through the next 4 seasons. So
I think you can do it.
It should be easy.
They're not long episodes or seasons.
No, they're not. And I was gonna wait until Better Call Saul was completely over with, but since the movie's dropping so quickly, I wasn't expecting this movie for another year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago that strong rumors were coming out about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did the trailer get you pumped up, Mike?
I guess no more or less pumped up than I was, I guess. It's neat to see some of these side characters back and I guess a confirmation of what the movie... I don't know, I guess we don't really have a confirmation about what the movie's about, but we have a confirmation based on the trailer of what they want us to be thinking the movie's going to be about, right? Which is just that people are chasing down Jesse Pinkman. So, before it could have been about anything. It could have been about him in Mexico getting into trouble again. But it sounds very much like it's going to be a continuation of the events in the finale.
Mm-hmm. Do we think Saul is going to make an appearance in this?
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I mean, the way Breaking Bad leaves that character is going to be interesting. But, I don't know. I mean, there are some flash forwards in Better Call Saul.
That's what I was thinking about.
That lead me to believe that they could easily pick up with his character later on in the future. But I don't know what story there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then again, I didn't know what story there would be for a Better Call Saul series or a Jesse Pinkman movie. But they keep finding story.
Yeah. Hopefully it's really good. I'm really excited. And I don't want to be disappointed, is essentially, and I hope that I'm not overhyping myself for it.
Yeah, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, but at the very least, I am rewatching Breaking Bad, which I know is going to be a nice experience.
Yeah.
So
and if the movie's mediocre, you know what? I'm okay with that for this one time, type of thing. If it's just okay, because everything else has been so good that he's done, and I don't know.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure. It's also interesting that this isn't going directly to AMC first.
Yeah, I find that really curious, too.
That makes me wonder, what's going to happen with the Rick Grimes Walking Dead movies? Are AMC going to put those out on Netflix first? Because I feel like AMC has been banking a lot on these like movie spin-offs for some of their more popular TV shows lately. And the fact that it's coming out on Netflix before AMC, I don't know.
I wonder if
surprises me.
The studio that produces Breaking Bad, I know that AMC like purchased it from that studio. I wonder if they just kind of circumvented AMC and just went straight to Netflix and got it made that way.
I'm sure it will still premiere on AMC at some point. But I don't know. We'll find out soon.
Yes, we will.
1 month.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about the Breaking Bad or El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie?
No, sir.
All right. Chris, what you got this week?
Yeah, this week I watched a little movie called Ready or Not, starring Samara Weaving. It's about a girl that decides to marry into this very rich family, and there are some rituals that this family goes through that are, without giving anything away, a little bit dark and sinister, and she quickly finds out that she's not getting into what she thought she was getting into. It's a very funny horror movie, very stylistically fun, I think. I also think Samara Weaving is really, really good in this. She was in 3 Boards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
What did I say? Yes. That's
3
what I
boards?
Said. 3 boards.
Just
I mean,
boards.
look, the title was too long, so 3 boards.
You get sleepy during things with too many syllables.
Yeah, let's just shorten it up, guys. But, yeah, anyway, Samara Weaving's really good in this. She's very charismatic.
Based on the advertisements and the trailer and stuff, I thought this was Margot Robbie.
So did I
was about to say the same thing. Like, I've seen the trailer like probably 25 times, and like seeing movies in the theater, and every time until right now, I have thought it was Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I even just pulled up IMDb to fact check you because I was like, no, that's Margot Robbie. What's going on? How is she not the star? Anyway,
yeah, I had to
crazy.
edit. You called it Margot Robbie in one of the episodes, and I edited that out for you, Mike.
Well, thank you. Why didn't you correct me?
Because I didn't realize it till afterwards. So.
Oh dear. Okay.
But anyways, yeah, she's really good in this, and I think she's as good as Margot Robbie. She has this really great scream that's just like blood-curdling scream that she has. It's just really great. I also like that this movie's, it's a movie that you don't want to think about too much, is what I would say, but there's a loose like analogy about the rich doing whatever they want to the poor and to the help and stuff like that. But ultimately, this is just this really kind of stylistic, fun horror movie. Like there wasn't very many people in the theater when I watched it, but there's like 2 groups. It was me and this other group, and we were both just laughing at it. You know, like you could hear them laughing. So everybody was having a great time in my theater, all 3 of us.
Laughing with it or at it?
With it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's really worth it. I think if you guys are interested in it, you should definitely check it out because I'd love to talk more about it.
Yeah, I absolutely want to see it. I think it looks real fun.
Yeah, I mentioned this on the podcast like a few months ago. This movie was coming out along with that one movie whose like release was canceled.
The Hunt.
Yeah, and they both had like similar plots, or at least based on the trailers, it looked like they had similar plots.
Yes.
And anyway, small world. It's like in the 90s when all the volcano movies came out and then all the alien movies came out.
Yeah, that always seems to happen. Not to get into The Hunt and the politics behind that, but it's always weird to me. Like, why did The Hunt get canceled and Ready or Not get canceled, right?
Well, from what I understand is The Hunt was very blatantly political, but that wasn't present in the trailer at all.
Yeah, so, well, from my understanding about The Hunt is not very many people actually, like, know what the plot is. Like, nobody's seen or read the script type of thing. And people are just guessing at what it is.
Oh, you know, yeah, like, so maybe that was all much to do about nothing?
Yeah, Damon Lindelof actually had a hand in writing the script of The Hunt, too. So, I think that if what we think we know, it probably is going to be turned on its head anyways in The Hunt, because with Damon Lindelof kind of being behind it. So
I guess we'll find out eventually later this year when it gets dumped on VOD.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in watching The Hunt, probably more so than if it hadn't gotten canceled.
Yeah, that's the extremely stupid thing that happens when people try to censor stuff. Like the idea behind censorship makes no sense because all you do is make people go out
more
and
curious.
Watch it more. Like if you don't want something to be seen for whatever reason, just ignore it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Our president's not great at ignoring stuff, so that may be.
Or anything.
Yeah. I mean, not many people are, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
It's, the whole 80s hair metal thing where people wanted to put parental advisory so kids didn't want to listen to music or couldn't listen to the music, and the parental advisory sticker just makes you as a kid want to listen to it more.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
When I would go into Blockbuster, the first thing I would check is so this is rated R. Why? Suggestive themes, drugs.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, this is everything I want in a movie.
Go through that drama section. Start flipping over those boxes and see what that rating system says. This needs to be rated R for.
Yeah. So good job, people who did not want The Hunt to be out there. You've made it way more desirable.
Yeah. So inevitably, when it comes out, it's going to have a lot more attention around it than it probably would have.
Yep.
Anyways, cool. Ready or not, I want to see it. I probably will soon. Haven't had a chance to yet.
Yes.
Just been rewatching that Breaking Bad, man. Haven't had time to get anywhere. Plus, I finished Mindhunter season 2. So, been a lot of TV shows going around lately.
So real quick, you have to tell me what you think of Mindhunter season 2.
Oh man, it continues to be Netflix's best show.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. So great.
Yeah, I won't keep it burdened down with too much conversation about Mindhunter. But yeah, if you're not watching Mindhunter, watch Mindhunter. It's good.
Yeah, it's better than good. It's great. It's that's what I would say.
Okay, so moving on to Criterion Collection release announcements for November 2019. Justin, why don't you go ahead and list all the announcements?
Yeah, sure. So first up on November 12th, we have The Day Trippers from Greg Mottola.
Mm-hmm.
On November 19th, we have 2 films, Cold War by Pavel Pavlikovsky and Betty Blue by Jean-Jacques Binet.
Mm-hmm.
Then on November 26th, we have 2 more films, Now Voyager by Irving Rapper and All About Eve from Joseph L. Mankiewicz. And those last 2 films are starring Bette Davis. So that's the tie there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see Cold War getting some Criterion Collection release here.
Yeah,
really.
I think we all watched this one, and we're all big fans of it. So
yeah,
absolutely.
I don't remember if it was
Thumbs
on our
up.
best of the year last year, but it was certainly close to making it if it wasn't on the final list.
Yeah, or we didn't get to watch it till after or something.
Maybe that's
somewhere
what it was.
around there. Yeah.
I think I ended up watching it after we did our best of list.
Yeah,
as
I think
well,
we watched
right
it
before
before
Oscars.
Yep, that was it. Because
Yeah.
it was up for
really
best foreign
great,
language.
though,
Yeah, and of course, All About Eve is a film I really like. I have not seen it in forever, so
Yeah.
I like when these films I've only seen once and loved come to Criterion, because then it gives me a perfect reason to go buy it and rewatch it.
Yeah, it
It's
feels
not
like a big event.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. It's not often that I get 2 movies that I've actually seen in all the release announcements. So that's cool. Being
Yeah.
Cold War and All About Eve. I have not seen anything else.
Yeah, so the one that intrigues me the most out of the ones that I haven't seen is The Day Trippers from
Yeah.
Greg Mottola. As we may know, he went on to direct Superbad.
Yep.
So I would like to see some of his early films. I like Superbad. I like Adventureland, which is another one he directed.
Yeah.
He directed several Arrested Development episodes in the good Arrested Development days. So very curious about The Day Trippers.
Yeah. Guess you can find out on November 12th.
I can.
All right. Anything else that any of us want to say about these releases?
No, I'm good.
Okay, guys. Well, with that, I say we go ahead and move into our review of Valley of the Dolls.
Let's go.
Gotta get off, gonna get.
Now, the motion picture that shows what America's all-time #1 bestseller first put into words.
Gotta get hold, gonna get. Need to get.
I wasn't much of a man living with you, Neely, but that's over. I'm straightened out now.
With that little whore!
That little hall makes me feel 9 feet tall.
Dolls, the instant turn-on. For instant love. Instant excitement. Ultimate hell.
Neely O'Hara!
Now, the all-time bestseller is the motion picture you wanted it to be. Valley of the Dolls.
Okay, so as always with our Criterion films, we do not do a spoiler-free section. So if you have not seen the movie and you don't want anything spoiled, stop listening now, go watch the movie, and then come back and finish. But you should have seen the film by now, and that's why we're not doing a spoiler-free section. So it's really on you if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, okay. Valley of the Dolls, directed by Mark Robson, starring Barbara Parkins, Patty Duke, Paul Burke, and Sharon Tate. The IMDb synopsis says, the film version of Jacqueline Suzanne's best-selling novel chronicling the rise and fall of three young women in show business.
Mm-hmm.
So, Valley of the Dolls. Who wants to get us kicked off? How about you, Justin?
Oof, me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do not have a ton to say about this movie, to be honest, because I think the conversation is going to take us a lot more interesting places than my overall general thoughts. I will say that I enjoyed the film. It's not a great film in a classical sense. It's campy and at times a little bad in a sort of melodramatic way, but I think is ultimately a pretty enjoyable watch. I really love just looking at this movie. It has really fantastic 60s color and 60s lighting here and there, and there's some really interesting visual things that they do. Mm-hmm. I was really impressed by some of the montage editing sequences that were in there. I didn't really expect. They're kind of a little out there. I would say specifically I want to call out the montage of one of the girls, Ann Wells, played by Barbara Parkins, her montage as I think as a Hairspray model.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that one. And I think we have some campy performances that are both good and bad at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed the movie, really. It's hard to recommend. I don't think it's a film I would recommend to everybody, but I don't know. It worked for me. That's where I'll leave it at.
Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't think I'm as high on this movie as you are, Justin. I think part of it coming from the 60s is interesting because it confuses me a little bit, because at times I'm like, is this exploiting people? Is it exploiting the girls? And then at times I'm also feeling like, oh, this is woman empowerment, you know? So I'm confused as to where it stands. It is definitely campy and cheesy, which also adds to the confusion a little bit for me, because are they mocking these situations or the characters, or I'm never quite sure of my footing here. You know, I'm not sure if they're taking it completely seriously or if they're doing a campy version of this, an over the top version. And hopefully through this conversation, you guys can help enlighten me on this and figure that out. You're right. It is a good looking film. I enjoyed watching the film as far as visually it goes. And depending on where you come down, whether it's they're being campy on purpose or if they're trying to take it seriously, I guess that's kind of where you fall on what the performances are as well. I enjoyed hanging out with the characters as much as we did, but I'm just not being able to put my thumb on the pulse of the movie. I can't quite grasp if the performances are good or if they're just really hammy, intentionally. Does that make sense? I do also want to point out that this is a John Williams score.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that popped up on the credits, and I was like, what? John Williams. And I Googled it.
The John Williams?
Yeah, the John Williams. And so I went to IMDb immediately, and I was like, is it the John Williams? And it was, except for it said uncredited, which I don't know how that works, because he was definitely
you saw his
credited.
credit.
Yeah, in the film. He's just like, please don't put that on my resume, which I don't think the score was that bad. But anyways, yeah, so I guess I'm not exactly sure, depending on the intention of the filmmaker and the people making this film, will result in how I feel about this film. Right now, I'm not sure how to feel because there's a lot of different things going on. So, Mike, what are your thoughts? And please enlighten me on this.
So this movie, I guess, was about what I expected. I've actually seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls several times, but never this movie. So I was curious to see what it was about, and I don't think I was expecting something quite as campy and melodramatic, but, in retrospect, it makes sense, because Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is even a level beyond that of campy and melodramatic. I think I started to realize very quickly that campiness is part of the appeal of this movie. I don't know that they necessarily were trying to make a campy movie at the time, but right. I think its campiness is certainly why we're talking about it now. Mm-hmm. Right? The same way that The Blob is something that people talk about now, right? Sometimes you can be campy in all the right ways to still be very, very watchable. And I think as long as you're extremely watchable, you can be as campy as you want to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. And there were several times when it was going on where I was like, whew, this is rough. But ultimately, I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah, it wasn't a painful watch at all. Like it's pretty easy to get through, and you can laugh with it. I think. I don't know whether or not it was genuine or campy. Maybe we can kind of tackle that first, as that might inform other conversation.
I think it's unintentionally campy, but I think it was always part of the appeal that's what it was, right? Like when this movie premiered, right. I think it premiered on a ship, and it was actually not well received at all. Even the author of the book, Jacqueline Suzanne,
right.
She didn't like it. She said it was like a piece of shit or something like that. And critics didn't like it, but audiences did like it. They flocked to it. So audiences made it a hit, even though everyone kind of dismissed it whose opinion, I guess, mattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of two things on that. Like even now, the Rotten Tomatoes score for this is like 33%. It's not very high. And then the other thing, I think one of the things, I think it was marketed, if I believe I've seen like trailers for it, but it was marketed as like kind of a titillating thing, like these women doing bust exercises, like scantily clad women, walking around in this film.
Well, the book was very sexy when it came out. I was talking to my dad about this movie. He called me today, and I was telling him I was watching this movie, and he was saying that when he was a kid, he remembers my grandma, his mom, and her friends talking about the book, about how it was like a hot topic issue. You know what I mean? Like people were talking about it. Yeah, it was like a sexy kind of thing. So I think titillation is kind of in the brand of Valley of the Dolls as like an IP,
for sure.
Yeah, and it kind of was in that age when there were a lot of like controversial books coming out, things like Lolita, and I think that when they were making the film, like one of the I guess like hooks of it, the advertisements about it were along the same lines of Lolita, whereas like Lolita's tagline is like, how did they ever make a movie out of Lolita? I think that was some of the same hype and like word around Valley of the Dolls was like, how did they make a movie out of that?
Yeah.
Because I think the book is supposedly pretty sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even the movie is pretty sexual for its time.
Yeah. And especially for, like it feels like a mainstream film.
Yeah. Well, I didn't expect to see that much of Sharon Tate in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin, Mike kind of answered what he thinks the intention of the filmmakers is, like whether it's campy or being taken seriously. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's unintentionally campy. I don't get a lot of the actors being in on the joke from this.
Yeah.
And I think, hearing some of the actresses, I think, were embarrassed about the movie for a while and then later on came to terms with it, right? And we're like, yeah, I did the movie, Valley of the Dolls. I was in that. And for a while, they were a little ashamed.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of tips the hat.
I do think going in, though, I would be interesting, too, because, obviously, there's a lot of scantily clad women and stuff like that in this. And I think that was a selling point of the film. So I think, like,
it might have been marketed campy.
Yeah.
Once they saw the film they had.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, there still are the scantily clad women in there. I think it feels to me like they knew what they were doing or what kind of movie they were putting out. Or maybe...
Well, that's what I'm saying. The purpose of Valley of the Dolls is titillation. But that doesn't necessarily make in and of itself the movie campy. Like, the movie was always supposed to be sexy.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't think they meant it to be quite as goofy as it ended up being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So moving on from that and coming off of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recently, I do want to ask you guys about Sharon Tate's performance, because I think it's the performance that feels the most bad at times, but I don't know, not always. Like something like it kind of fits into place once you get like adjust to the tone of the film. But like, I mean, I don't know. This is the only Sharon Tate role I think I've seen. So if you've seen more, is this indicative of her? Was she a good actress supposedly, or is she actually not a great actress and that's why she's in this film?
I've only seen her in this and Fearless Vampire Hunters, but I'd say both movies, she's not really bad. She's fine. I think she was at the beginning of her career. I don't know if she would have gone on to be like a Faye Dunaway type actress or anything like that. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
But I think she was very much just par for this movie. You know what I mean? I don't know. I haven't seen her in that many other movies, I guess. But I feel like she's not any worse than a lot of other actors in this movie, in my opinion. I don't think that she stands out as having a performance that I thought of as one of the worst, so much as just about the same as everyone else. Okay.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Patty Duke is in here, and I don't think she's... And, Patty Duke went on to have a long career. So, and I don't think she's that much worse or over... it may have to do more with her, the role she's playing in this, because she's a little bit more depressed, it seems like, in this film than like Patty Duke, where Patty Duke can go over the top being bitchy and like angry about people, where Sharon Tate's character is just a little bit more reclusive and not as outgoing as some of the other characters.
Yeah, and she's supposed to... I got the impression that she's supposed to be kind of simple.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Patty Duke's pretty good in this, to be honest.
No,
I for
think,
what it is, yeah.
I think she is simultaneously the best and the worst performance in the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think where she isn't good, in my opinion, is the scenes where she's singing, but they dubbed over her singing. And that's where it stands out to be super weird.
I don't know. The scene where she's screaming Neely O'Hara in the alleyway was not very good, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's bad writing.
And bad direction.
It's bad writing performed to its utmost goodness that it could be, I think.
Maybe so. So the character of Neely O'Hara was supposedly based on Judy Garland, loosely.
I think Judy Garland was actually supposed to be in this
That's
film.
actually what I was about to say. Judy Garland was cast originally as Helen Lawson. Mm-hmm. But her health was really bad and her behavior was too erratic and too much to deal with. So she got fired and replaced with Susan Hayward.
Yeah, I think they considered Lucille Ball too.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently, speaking of Susan Hayward, Barbara Parkins and Susan Hayward did not like one another. And there was a lot of drama on set between those two, apparently. And that scene where she pulls the wig off her head, apparently that scene was actually, there was some real physical fighting during the filming of that, apparently. And some striking of one another.
Weird. Yikes.
Yeah. So
I think that fits in this movie.
Yeah, apparently this movie was just plagued with all kinds of production hell, which kind of maybe sinks a little bit into the performances and the overall tone of the movie. Because from what I understand is a lot of times the actors themselves were not excited about the dialogue and the movie, and they themselves did not put out the best performances.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I went into a YouTube video rabbit hole about this movie earlier today.
I think one thing that surprised me about the movie is I was way off base of what I thought the title meant.
Oh, but
like Valley of the Dolls, I thought... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I was like, it's so deep, you see. Dolls can mean girls or pills.
Yeah, and I guess Valley... I thought this movie was going to take place in California or something. But it's all in New York. And I guess Valley is, their dip and
the come
downfall.
Down. Yeah, because at the very beginning they talk about Mount Everest and how when you're on Mount Everest you look down onto the Valley of the Dolls, and then when you're in the Valley of Dolls, I kind of like the intro actually.
It certainly sets the tone.
Yeah.
I was just reading an article that commented on the attempt of making dolls a phrase that never caught on, as far as calling drugs that was a thing purely invented for the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, it made me laugh thinking about someone trying to get it to catch on or whatever, trying to invent a new slang, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work so much so that it's kind of cringy whenever they keep saying the word dolls over and over again throughout the movie.
Yeah, I just imagine some cops hey, you got any dolls on you? Just completely out of it. They think that they're in on the lingo, but automatically that they're a narc, what they call it dolls.
Right, yeah. It's if it kind of feels like whoever wrote it just didn't know. Just the uncool person.
Yeah.
The princess like tripping on pot type person. I can't remember what news cast that was, but there was a video of a news anchor saying tripping on pot, doing alcohol.
Yeah, taking alcohol. Do you guys think that this movie is fun and campy enough to deserve its cult status?
That's a good question. Because I want to say no.
Yeah.
Just because Beyond the Valley of the Dolls exists, and that is just so much more campy and so much more culty. And if you compare this to something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, it doesn't really fit in that same thing. Like, I don't think it's that fun.
Yeah. Well, when I was doing my research, I came across some people talking about Roger Ebert. He did not like this movie at all. He I think hated the movie. And he was saying that for a movie that is so much about women in these situations, it doesn't seem very sympathetic to these women.
Yeah.
And it also seems a little bit like not slut shaming necessarily, but the movie itself does not seem to like sex and seems to view sex as bad, right? Like the only girl to come through the whole thing with any with her life and sanity and humanity is the one who walked away from everything, right? And went back to her small town and gave up on the dream, right? And then the two that try to stay in the business, one ends up doing kind of nudie movies or whatever they called them back then, right? But
art films is what they call
art films. But big portions of the movie are spent basically being like, yeah, art films. Really what they mean is like nude movies. You know what I mean? She's taking off her clothes. That's what it's really all about. You know what I mean? And like they kind of make it a point to where like she's not happy based on her decisions and all that. So a lot of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls has a very opposite kind of message, like a very sex positive kind of message throughout it as well. But anyway, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's kind of where I don't know. I feel like there are things that are like woman empowerment, like women are kind of taking charge of certain situations, but then at the same time, there's like every time they take one step forward, there's like 3 steps back for each of the women, like where it's like, for one, like they're taking off their clothes so that we can look at them, I think, for parts of the movie, right? And then
like there's unnecessary shots of Barbara Perkins just undressing.
Yeah, and so it's it's just like this weird spot where I feel like these women, they want these women to be empowered, but at the same time, we're just we're being voyeurs looking at them, and also they're being put in situations where they're women, they can't handle the pressure, type of thing. It's
almost like the book was written by a woman
and then directed by,
and then the movie was created, written and directed by men.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. It all makes sense now. That's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like the movie gets a little hypocritical because there are those moments, like specifically, it seems like the movie's kind of self-aware of women's struggles when it has lines like, I don't remember who says it. I think it might be Neely O'Hara. She says, when a woman steps away from a picture, or when a man steps away from a picture, it's considered like dignified and he's got values. And when a woman does it, she's irrational.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, that's a theme that kind of resonates today, even in certain venues. So, like,
she's too emotional. She's crazy.
Yeah, the movie seems aware of that sort of thing back then, and it's kind of calling it out, I think. And then also, I think it's doing a bit with Sharon Tate, like her character's ultimate end, which is she kills herself because she's got lumps in her breasts. She's gonna have to get a mastectomy and get her breast removed, and without her breasts, she's nothing.
Yeah,
and she feels like she's nothing.
Yeah,
and
her character is so sad. The whole movie, she's like, I don't have any talent.
Yeah, that's probably and the mom just being like, the only thing you've got is your boobs, so make sure you're doing your what were they called?
Like her boob pumps or something.
Yeah, they weren't called that, but yeah, the boob exercises.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit calling out that view of women and like society, but at the same time, like you said, Chris, it's like hypocritical. And the other movie that comes to mind when I think about an example, and this is like the most weird example, especially like on a Criterion episode, but Mike, do you remember the movie that we rented from Blockbuster starring Stone Cold Steve Austin called The Condemned?
Yes, I do remember that movie. I'm curious to see where you're going with this.
So, in that film, what that was about was it was essentially this sort of battle royale type ripoff.
Hunger Games is the more
Hunger Games.
prominent movie now. This is pre-Hunger Games, though.
It is. And so it's essentially they take a group of prisoners, dump them on an island, and make them play a game where they all have to kill each other off until there's one survivor left, and there's cameras everywhere, and it's televised for the masses to see, and the winner gets to like get freedom or something.
Yeah,
weird
something like that, or a wish or something like that. I don't know.
But the whole ultimate point of the movie was that violence in media is no good. But the film was a violent film, like to be entertaining in that sense, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
And so I felt that the same way about this at times that I did about The Condemned, that movie, of like, you're giving me one message, but you're actually just showing me, you're satisfying me in the way that you're kind of calling me out for.
Right. Like you can tell, you can tell like at some point during the incubation of this movie, the writer or the original story person, whoever had the treatment, had a really like artistic idea and a message. They wanted to do like a message movie, right? And that thread held on to the finished product, but it got handed off to several people between then and there that were making a completely different movie and produced a different movie. But like that one thread of an idea is still there, like of a message movie, you know?
Yeah. That also kind of, while we're talking on like, I wanted to talk about the character, I don't even think that he is homosexual, but really weird. I mean, I guess it's not weird for the time. So that is one thing to be said. This movie is definitely of its time. So they use this derogatory term for gay, and it's so weird the way they use it to me. And especially because it's for part of it, I feel like this is a film about women empowerment. You know, like somewhere in there's someone had that idea, right? And it's like, finally, women get power so they can step on somebody else, you know, because they keep on referring to, you know, like this other group as, you know, like they call them, aren't they all bitchy or something like that? And it's just really kind of gross in the way they talk about it. And
it's a product of its time, I guess.
Yeah, it's a product of the time, because even like one of like the purest characters, Sharon Tate's character, is saying these things as if it's a matter of fact. So it's just this weird, I guess it's, as a product of its time, it just feels weird to me, you know, like it's odd. Yeah. What did you guys think about that?
I think that's just the thing of going back and watching things through a 2019 lens, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, 15 years ago, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. Go back and watch like any handful of episodes of Friends. It's a lot more weirdly homophobic than you remember. Yeah,
I'm currently watching through Seinfeld.
Uh-huh.
And there is a whole episode where George Costanza has like big worries about people thinking he's gay.
Yeah.
And he, like, just like to the sister, it's like the worst thing he could imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's all out. It's not that new.
Yeah, we forget how much things have changed in the last 20 years, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It's just, it was really odd.
I agree. It's definitely weird when you're watching the movie, because I mean, every time they would like throw that word out there, I was like, huh, okay.
And it doesn't even feel, it feels out of place in the movie.
Yeah.
To me, you know, it doesn't even feel like it fits there. Like it's just out of place.
Well, that element of the story, it's not even in there enough for them to be making a point about it.
Yeah, and then he's not like because like, he. Yeah, like they just think he is. I guess he's a hairdresser, so they say that he is, and because he's dating Patty Duke's character, and then he cheats on Patty Duke with another woman, and she calls him that name, and so you're like, what? Obviously, he's not. He's cheating with another woman. Like when I first heard, like as that scene's being set up, I thought, okay, here's the reveal that he's with a man, but he's not even with a man. It's like it's so weird that it's even in there.
Yeah.
It is weird. I mean, the movie's not super concise. I think even Barbara Parkin's character's like foray into hairspray modeling happens, and then it's just kind of
then it's just done
over after that.
She just becomes a professional wife, I guess, after that. I don't know. Or
yeah,
not even a wife. She's like a mistress. She wants to be a wife, but like once she starts dating what's his face, she just stops doing anything resembling a career, or I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, and at that point she was already on the verge of dating him, and so I was like, I question why we go through that whole segment. Granted, it's one of my favorite parts of the movie because, as I said earlier, that montage was really cool.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
just visually interesting. But I don't know, it felt so irrelevant later on.
Yeah, this movie goes through large sections of time where like major months have passed, but time doesn't really seem to be passing at all. Like everything just seems to be in the 60s all the time. But like it feels like the movie's supposed to span like 10 years or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, supposedly the novel took place over decades.
Yeah.
But we don't really get that sense in here. It seems like it could have been a year.
Yeah. No one really ages.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, I think it could have been pretty funny to see the attempt that this movie made at aging those actresses.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a weird film that I enjoyed watching, but there's so much you can really complain about. So it's just a bizarre film to me. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's just that immediate fun camp level that other cult films are.
Yeah.
But it was very watchable to me.
Yeah, it's very watchable, but it's not as fun as like when it's over, I wasn't as happy as when I watched The Blob.
Yeah. I think after this conversation, kind of where I come down on this is that I think it's a worthwhile watch if you're interested in film history and all this stuff. But I don't know that I'd really recommend this to anybody unless they're into that, film history type stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely not a movie that you could recommend to a whole lot of people who would appreciate it for what it is, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys see any of this film in Boogie Nights and or Magnolia? More so Boogie Nights.
Yeah. I see this movie in a lot of movies. The Rise and Fall.
Yeah, with the drugs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess on a very simple level, that's fair. I feel like there is a certain colorful campiness to Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
That I did drawing those comparisons from that, I guess, more so than the simple Rise and Fall. But I mean, that's obviously there, and the drug problems and things like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I can definitely see it. And I'm sure, Boogie Nights being about the porn industry and titillation like that, I'm sure Valley of the Dolls was very much something that Paul Thomas Anderson was aware of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I even noticed just in from a visual standpoint, and maybe I'm just pulling from the snow in the New England setting of Barbara Parkin's character's hometown.
Yeah.
But there were times that I found myself thinking, if this movie was a little bit more saturated, it would fit right in there with Douglas Sirk, All That Heaven Allows.
Oh, yeah.
And that sort of thing. It's almost to that level of interesting looking. It's not as classically great cinematography as this Douglas Sirk films.
Yeah. A lot of shooting on the fly.
It's almost there. Yeah, it's almost there. This isn't as well thought out, but
yeah, and
it's
actually,
almost there.
It would fit there with the melodrama because Douglas Sirk's movies had so much melodrama in them. But even this, at its best, that's what this movie would be, is a Douglas Sirk film.
Yeah, but I think it's closer to Russ Meyer.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between. All right, well, that is all I have on Valley of the Dolls.
That's also all I have.
Yeah, and that's also all I have.
All right, so let's move into the Criterion poll for the film that we'll be doing in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So the poll for this week is kind of based on It Chapter 2, which we'll be covering next week. But our theme is adaptations, so films that were adaptations of books.
Yeah, so that should leave us plenty of options to choose from within the Criterion Collection. There are plenty of movies that they've released that are based on other things and adaptations of other things. So I will go ahead and get us kicked off because I'm scared one of you guys is going to take my movie.
Oh, no.
Fair enough.
All right. So I want to throw out there Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick.
Nice.
Have you seen that one?
I have not seen Barry Lyndon, so this will be my excuse to actually watch it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind revisiting it. I think Justin and I, didn't we watch that for when we first started the podcast for Criterion Now?
Yeah, when we guessed it on Criterion Now, the movie that we majorly talked about was Barry Lyndon, and that was my first time to watch it. It was I kind of needed that kick in the pants to make myself do it because it's kind of long, but I'm a fan.
That'll be a good one, and I think that's also going to get a lot of votes too.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
All right, Chris, what is your choice?
So, what I picked... Oh, first of all, I want to lodge a complaint with the Casual Cinecast management. I wanted to pick War and Peace, and that was vetoed. So I'm just putting that in there because it was too long or something like that. But the movie I did fall on was...
That wasn't me who vetoed it, by the way.
You didn't fight for it either, buddy.
That's
if you're
true.
not with me, you're
I
against
didn't.
me.
Hey, I picked Barry Lyndon. That's over 3 hours.
That's true. And the movie I'm picking is over 3 hours,
Ha!
I believe.
So,
So I'm picking Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris.
ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought about picking that one because I want to revisit that one.
Yeah, I've only
Yeah.
seen it once.
All right. So, Justin, what did you pick?
Oh, I had so many to choose from. I was hoping, like, I had a short list here, and I was hoping you guys would pick like both of them,
Yeah,
so you could
I was
make my
pretty
decision
confident I was
easier.
going to win. I was pretty confident I was going to win with Barry Lyndon, but then he threw out Solaris, and now
Yeah.
that's like a Criterion staple. He might as well have thrown out Seven Samurai.
Right.
I think Barry Lyndon's in there. They're like it's high up there. People will choose that. It's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. So I'm going to pick one that I have wanted to rewatch for a while now, and I've just not really found the time, but that is The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh, nice. That one also has a good chance of winning. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But all those are pretty recognizable names.
Yeah, and it's one I watched forever ago, and I think it's just one I don't even remember how I felt about it, but I've seen it talked about as like kind of blasphemous and in certain ways, and I'm very curious to revisit that now because I'm much older than I was when I watched it for the first time, and I'm a little bit further removed from religion than I was the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty
So-
passionate about that movie. I actually think, well, if it wins, we can talk about it, but I'm glad you picked it.
It would be interesting to do like a Martin Scorsese double feature of The Last Temptation of Christ and Silence.
That would be cool.
Because both of those movies, I think, are the ones that explore his faith the most.
Definitely. So
Yeah.
to recap, your choices are... Mike, what did you pick?
Oh, do you want me to read my own?
Sorry.
Okay. Or
No,
you don't- you don't even remember.
I could read them. I just don't remember.
You don't even remember what I had
Barry,
chose.
Barry Lyndon. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so to quickly recap, your choices are
Barry
Lyndon.
Lyndon. Sorry, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
And Chris's choice was
Solaris.
Solaris. Thank you, Chris.
You're
and my
welcome.
choice was Last Temptation of Christ. So those are your three choices. By the time you're hearing this, that poll will be up on Twitter. So go to our Twitter at Casual Cinecast and vote.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. So thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week with a review for It Chapter 2.
Yes, and of course, thank you, Jake Wagner Russell, for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, you can do so at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
Bop that scotch.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. It really means a lot to us. We will see you next time.
Bye. Bye.
See you later.